most of us are somewhat aware of what we're good at. Maybe we have a phenomenal voice. Maybe we carry a great message. Maybe we're curious and we're learners. Maybe we are very analytical, and whatever that thing is that is your thing. And then you can understand, hey, how can I apply that towards getting to the life that I want to create, the impact, the income, the lifestyle, all of those different pieces. So Paul, for you in particular, I'm curious, have you named your number? And more importantly than the number that you named, what did that process of drawing a line in the sand and then designing your life in order to be able to create that, what did that do for you?
Yeah, so I'll walk through that a little bit because that was a bit of a process for me. I had a current lifestyle in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was a middle income, or I'm sorry, I was a middle manager with probably a six-figure income, and I was a single income family. My wife stays at home, and we wanted to maintain that lifestyle without me having to constantly go to work. So much of me about naming your number was also for me, like naming how I spent my time. And I wanted to be able to earn a certain number. For me, it started off at $5,000 a month, and then it escalated to $10,000 a month. So now that I can comfortably earn $10,000 a month without spending a lot of time and effort to do so, now I have what I would consider a level one financial independence. I'm not going to be living in an exotic life. I'm not driving a private jet, but that's my safety and security. That's my foundation of my lifestyle. And then I can spend time working on projects that I certainly have a profit motive in, but I don't have to win every single project. And it just changed my life, right? Like that. I can always fall back on this portfolio of rentals that I have that pay my fundamental living expenses. And that process for me was, going back to kind of like personal finance 101, like what do we really need to spend? And when I came up with the initial number of $5,000, it was probably enough to survive, but it wasn't enough to thrive for our chosen lifestyle in really a low cost of living area in Little Rock, Arkansas. But our kids go to private school. We've tried public school at every level. Elementary worked, middle school and high school for our kids. It did not work here. So we've elected to go to private school, which is ridiculously expensive. And so that modified our lifestyle, our need to earn a little more to be able to comfortably be able to send our kids to the schools that we feel make the most sense for us in our situation. I think that answers the question.
Being in the position to be able to know that you're level one, right? Yep. Your basic expenses are covered, and knowing that you're able to then create the life for your family. Right. How did that feel compared to the old way, the traditional way? I'm grinding for a paycheck. I'm doing this thing, and I don't exactly know when I'm going to get out, when I'm going to get off the old treadmill, as we call it.
Right. The rat race. The feeling is the feeling of freedom. It's the every once in a while, your job will remind you who's really in charge. Sometimes you have a cool boss and they're flexible, and sometimes you kind of like your work and your coworkers, and you're lucky that you have a boss that you like. And when that's going on, you're like, this is okay. Like I like most of what I do at work. I don't hate my job. And for anybody in the situation, that's awesome. And I was in that position for a while. However, you can't control the environment, and bosses change, companies get purchased, layoffs happen, and just they're outside of your control. And so you don't really have the freedom and autonomy that you think you have. And so you're extremely vulnerable to the whims of a company that's going to create some sort of cold equation spreadsheet, which I have been a part of, where I would look at spreadsheets of employees and we'll say, well, that one's got to go. That one's got to go. This one makes too much. Great employee, but they make too much. And I've been in those meetings. And of course, those same meetings are happening that I'm not involved in when my name is on that list. And that's happening in every corporation of any size. And so I think the idea of relying on a corporation or a government to take care of us is is fraught with danger and uncertainty that I think we underestimate. And so it's okay to be an employee, but I think it's so much better to be an employee of a small company where you really know each other. And, that's being closer to being a human, where we're a tribal species, and a group of 150 or less is kind of like the ideal tribe size for humanity, according to scientists. And anecdotally, that feels right to me. And when you get inside of a corporation that has more than 150 employees at one site, you don't know them all. There's this weird friction where you break up into like sub tribes, and you war against each other. And anybody who's been in the corporate world or government jobs has seen that them versus us dynamic that happens inside of corporations. And it's politicking. It's like, who has the control and who has the power. And the thing we miss is that when we're in the middle of those fights for control and power, we have already given up our control and power by working for a corporation. So when you are able to buy back your time by creating income outside of a job, then you can work for a company if you wish, make an income if you wish, but you don't really need that income anymore. You have your own thing that's comfortably covering your living expenses. And I think it actually makes you a better employee, because you're not just self-serving, you're there to serve the organization you're part of.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I love capitalism. I am a big fan of free markets and being able to have people be able to go out and build businesses and make an impact. But it is interesting that as companies grow, they become more efficient and sometimes effective, but not often.
Right.
But as they grow, you have to start focusing on specialization, meaning one person does one thing and they do that thing over and over and over again. And that's what ends up leading to the efficiency that leads to higher profits. And as these companies grow, as governments grow, then you start getting further and further away from that community, from that connection, from that tribe. You have it in a microcosm within those little groups, but it's not the same. And that's one reason I believe a lot of people are starting to be much less happy, much more anxious, because they don't necessarily feel like the direct things that they're doing in their life are leading to the changes that they're desiring from their life. And so when they hear about things like entrepreneurship, when they hear about investing, they get excited because it's an idea that might get them more of that autonomy, that control, that influence, being able to do something that makes more of an impact. But at the same time, there's so much uncertainty. There's so much uncertainty of what you don't know, leaving the security of, or the pseudo security of working in that company. And then as people do go and try to do their own thing, they recognize that they've traded one challenge for another challenge. And many of those people end up leaving. They end up going back to the old way because they didn't learn the new set of skills in order to succeed in that space. So what I'm really driving towards is this idea that sometimes the grass isn't always greener, but from your perspective, how should the listener be thinking about getting clear on making those steps towards creating that independence so they can spend more of the time doing the things that they do really care about and what they're really here to do?
I think we're all in a race to get to that number. Whatever your number is, you need to get into a purpose, passionate sprint to get to the place where you comfortably have that net worth or cash flow number, so that you then have bought your freedom back. And the way to do that is to own equity. And so you can earn and invest and invest in the stock market and have equity in, fractional shares of a big, Fortune 500 type company, or a public company anyway. You could start your own business. You can start with a side hustle and have it grow into a business that you're going to do. You can be a full-on entrepreneur. You can burn the boats and build your company, and hopefully your plane flies before it crashes. And that's why I like real estate, is because it's a happy combination of the two. It's still a business, but it's also part investment. And I'm not dogmatic or religious about any of those asset classes. I'm dogmatic about we each need to be owning a piece of the equity of one or all of those asset classes, because that gives you the autonomy and the ability to have something that is yours that can't be easily taken away from you and earns you a residual income and has appreciation potential and the opportunity to grow real wealth and then control what you want to do. And then you can do what matters most to you.
Yeah. And it's like from that place, when you step into the mindset of an investor, you're not just working for an income, you're working for the growth of that equity. Right. So you might be working at a small startup or a small company. You might be having the ability to make a direct impact and influence the growth of that quote investment. Because in this case, you're investing your time and maybe you're taking a lower salary. So you're also investing that income potential that you're making. But you have to be very intentional about deciding and choosing the right investment or the right company to do that. Or if you're going to go into real estate or buy businesses, it also comes down to making that kind of decision. Thanks for listening to the Investor Mindset Podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to watch another, here's one up top. And here's another great video right down below.